Hi, everybody. Welcome to Class 8 of Computer Assisted Legal Research. Congratulations on making it halfway through the semester. We are halfway through the semester, so now is the time for a little introspection, figuring out if you have not been able to keep up with a class, if this is something that maybe you should consider dropping for now, if it's been too much, or if your grade isn't where it should be to, really get yourself in gear. There's some big point grabs coming up with the, Westlaw certification, Lexis certification, the Blue Book project that can really bump up your grade. So don't blow it. Get those things in, get them in on time so that I can give you full credit for them and you can do well in this class. All right, so today we're still on Lexis. We're going to be working on Shepard, doing some Shepard's practice and starting working on statute research. And statute research will be very helpful for our final project in our 50-state survey. So first we're going to talk about Shepards, learn about KeyCite. Now we're going to learn about Shepards. So Shepards, like KeyCite, it was the original. It is a citator. It gives you a list of all the authorities that cite either a case or a statute. And for the citing materials, especially in cases, it gives you what we call a treatment. So the Shepard's editors go in and see when a case has been cited and say, like, how has that case treated the case it cited? Is it explaining? Is it explaining it? Is it distinguishing it? Is it criticizing it? All of those things. So those are called treatments. Okay. And there's both negative treatments and positive treatments and neutral treatments. So you have to pay attention to that. Now, when I was looking at your KeyCite stuff, you're just like a little bit obsessed with the flags, and that's fine to be obsessed with the flags, but pay attention to what the treatments are when you see a flag that is either red or, well, it won't be flags in Shepards, but when you see something that is either red or yellow. The Shepards will also give you the history of the case to see how it worked its way through the court system and anything that happened after this case in the court system. Okay, so Shepardizing is actually a verb, refers to the process of consulting Shepards to see if a case has been changed or the precedential value has been weakened by later cases. So here we have a beautiful photo of this guy, Frank Shepard, must have his COVID beard on. So it started 145 years ago in 1873. A young man named Frank Shepard was a door-to-door book salesman who sold law books. And his great idea was, well, I can give them the texts of the opinions, but if I tell them where it's been cited since then, I'm going to be like the most valuable law book salesman ever. Okay, so here it is. And if you guys have ever read the book on Hamilton did this too in New York, or he had little notations of how subsequent cases treated these prior cases. So anyway, this is what it looks like now. This is the bound book called Shepard's Federal Citations, which has all the Shepard's reports. And when newer things came out, you had, pocket parts and supplements. And then in 1996, which was actually when I was working for Lexis, they purchased Shepards. So Shepards had always been available on both Lexis and Westlaw. And it was just a list of all the cases that had cited it. It was almost like a PDF looking of what Shepards was in the book. So you would have the case that it cited and the treatment code. So Lexis, when they purchased Shepards, put a lot of money into developing software that would make Shepards more user-friendly, which makes it kind of look more like what it looks like today. And then when the contract for Shepards being available on Westlaw expired, Lexis didn't renew it, and then that's when Westlaw developed KeyCite. Okay, so why do we do it? Just the same reason we did KeyCite. Two reasons. One, is the case good law? Has something happened since this decision was written that negatively impacts its precedential law? If it's in the actual chain of the case, has a higher court reversed it, modified it, vacated it, anything that makes this case no longer good law? Outside of the chain of the case, is there a new case where a judge somehow negatively references the case you are Shepardizing, overruling it, questioning it, abrogating it, anything like that? Why do we do it? Excuse me. Why don't we ask Marcia? Okay, so that was a big mess up on Marcia's part. One of my favorite parts is that it wasn't the opposing counsel that found this, it was the Pepperdine law clerks. So people just like you who are just students of the law and doing, not passing the bar exam, found that she was wrong when she Shepardized the case. So you don't want to be embarrassed by a judge or someone in your firm by getting something wrong. This is just more locally. 1997, excusable for a lawyer to Shepardize cases. No counsel ought to cite a case without Shepardizing that case. In this one, they should have learned better by Shepardizing this case, as every lawyer should do. So anyway, you should do it. Okay, how do we do it? If the case isn't already on the screen, we do Shep : and then we cite it. So I'm just going to copy that. One thing I learned this week is that now we don't have to write advanced.lexis.com. We can just do lexis.com. They got rid of the old lexis.com and now it's just advanced. So then they got rid of the advanced. So type in advanced.lexis.com or lexis.com and you'll get the same result. Okay, so here's my Shep. Okay. So first thing we're going to look at is my Shepard signal. So let's see what these Shepards signals are. Okay. So it's they do like traffic signals. Red stop sign means warning, negative treatment is indicated. That means that there is severe negative history or treatment on at least one point of law. Okay, so it might be bad to use it. Q is questioned. That's pretty bad. We need to look further for that. Okay, you're going to see mostly these yellow yield signs that there is history that may negatively impact your case, like limited, criticized. But you could technically still use it. For these yellow ones, you always want to go and see what cases are limiting or criticizing or somehow negatively talking about your case. If they're outside of your jurisdiction, you don't give a care about them. But if they're in your jurisdiction and there's a lot of them, you might want to think twice, or maybe the law has somehow evolved and you have to take note of that. Okay, now here you have your lucky charms, the green diamond. It indicates that there is actually positive. So it's affirmed, followed, extended, or something like that. This means these are kind of the neutral one. Citing references with analysis available, like explained, cited, something like that. And it's cited, but there's no treatment code. And this is the one you have to worry about for a statute. Something bad has happened with this red exclamation point in a circle. Okay. All right, let's try this one. Well, let me just go back here to my Shepards. Okay. So my tabs here are on the left rather than on top. I have 64 decisions that cite to it. So these are cases that cite to it. Looks like I only have ones with positive treatment and neutral. So I have cited, followed as a positive, explained as a neutral. Okay. Then I have other citing sources, which it can be cited in a secondary source. That is not a case. Those are all secondary sources. So usually you only use that if you're using Shepards to further your research. Then my table of authorities, these are all the cases that were cited in US versus Caputo here. Okay, and then appellate history. So appellate history is how US versus Caputo got here. So I'm at the so these are the lower court cases, right? A bunch of lower court decisions, and there's the one I Shepardized. And look, there's even another page. And these are subsequent ones, so things that happen. So cert was denied, so that is really our final decision. So we can look at this in a pretty map. Where does it say that? Did I get there? Yeah, show and map. So here's, if I want to look at what it looks like graphically, here it is. There were a bunch of little motions granted and denied in the trial court. This is my case. Okay, and then cert was denied, and here's some other little things that don't impact it. Okay, so that's my appellate history. Okay, so let's see what I'm looking for here too. So we're going to try this 402 ILAP 3rd 654. So same thing, Shep : take out try. This might look familiar from earlier research we did in this class, but look, oh, this is a bad one. I've got a stop sign. Where does the stop sign come from? Look, it comes from my appellate history. So this is an Illinois appellate court appellate court case, and something must have happened on the Supreme Court level. Okay, so here's the citation I Shepardized. Appeal was granted, and look, it was reversed in part. Okay, so I don't really want to cite this version of Pell versus Hutzel. I would cite the Supreme Court version. So if I want to look at my map here of my decision, okay, so here was my case I Shepardized, and then here was the Supreme Court case that denied it. Okay, so that's what the appellate history does. Let me just get to, okay, it tells me right here that there's negative analysis in my subsequent appellate history, the case I Shepardized, what happened after, and the bad thing that happened. So that's kind of like the negative direct history that we remember in key cite, which I think is confusing, but this just tells me my appellate history. Citing decisions, these are cases that cite to it. Other citing sources and table of authorities. Okay. It's going to be the first of the list. So our best news would be no negative subsequent appellate history, which in Bell, we don't have that. Okay. Okay, citing decisions are the cases that's cited to our case. So let me get back to maybe that first one we had before Bell. Oh, maybe I'll go to my history. Look at me, Shepards. Let's go to Caputo. Okay, so this one I had 64 citing decisions, and there's a lot of stuff I can do here, right? I can narrow by analysis. Say I only want ones that have followed it, and then I get 9 cases that have followed it. Very interesting there. And then I can clear that. I can do it by jurisdiction. So if I'm only interested in what happened in the Seventh Circuit, I can get Seventh Circuit cases that cite to Caputo. I can do it by, I always like to look at reported decisions because unreported decisions are not mandatory authority on anybody. So I have reported decisions. I can do it by depth of analysis. So boom, boom, boom. Really discussed, there's only 2, just merely cited, there are 13. So if I want ones that really discuss it, I can narrow it to that. Narrowing by Headnote is really helpful because the Headnote is like what I'm interested in. So if this Headnote 8 talks about admissibility and expert witnesses, if that's what I'm interested in, I would look at those cases. If I was interested in sentencing guidelines, I would look at the ones that dealt with Headnote 10. Here's my little pretty timeline that I can narrow it by date. All of those fun things that I can do. So let's see what I was saying. Yeah, filters, analysis, court, discussion, headnotes. Oh, and then I can search within results. So say, where is it? When I'm in, oh, my dog is crying. Search within results right here. I can look for all the cases that talked about an expert witness. So what I'm doing is like a little mini search. I'm searching through all of these cases for those terms. So if I'm using Shepards to find other similar cases, 24 of them use the phrase expert witness. So that's pretty cool. Other citing sources, that's the secondary sources. I don't usually use it, but you can narrow your results by type of document, date. Let's go there. Let me go to my other citing sources. Not as much fun to narrow it. I can search within my results. I can narrow it by content or timeline. Or I could search within my results with a term as well. Table of authorities is my list of cases that have cited to my case. And then now I'm going to end this mini video, and you should be working on the Shepard's practice for your classwork.